Ladies and gentlemen, it is week 3 here on the LCO. Day 1, it's a beautiful Monday afternoon and I'm joined by Kitty, Rusty, Skimmy, and we have some great news and some great games. It's going to be the first day where we get to have 4 games for the night, which means we're sitting here and there's much more entertainment for you guys at home, which is great. How's everyone's weekend? Kitty, what'd you get up to?
I was working, Mac. I was in my bedroom and working, so that was great. I hope you had a better weekend than me, of course.
Partially. Maybe not. Who knows? Rusty, what about you? You're bloody skating everywhere, mate.
Roller skates, silent discos, art festivals, played some volleyball. It was a very good weekend, had a very good time.
And Skimmy? Were you just locked in the dungeon? What's going on?
I was in the dungeons. I was locked in the side like Kitty, just working. Yeah, working, mate. Working very hard.
Working.
Is that what you call it these days?
Content creating, dungeoneering.
Dungeoneering.
Rank 1
content
rank 1 grinding
is work. It is work, by the way. And we've got some great content creators or video creators, at least behind the scenes, you know, ripping together the content for you guys. Let's have a look back at what happened last Wednesday before we jump on into this beautiful Monday of the LCO.
Kiss at the same time too, who can look to try and return the favour with his own ult. He get rooted underneath the turret. Akano goes, I'm not too sure about that one. That was clever. Dodges out the arrow. I like that from Akano. Doesn't save him from dying. However, Kiste only an assault and battery left here for Gooby. He needs to find the target. They're up and need to coordinate this one. Great buffer there by Tron. Cancelling out the enchanted arrow, running back to the Phantom. They go. Turn their attention right towards the Nexus. They would have had the KDA. Why would you not?
Gets them closer to the pit, but can they get through Chaz?
Well, how do you even get through Chaz, let alone Zoranus? Both angles, both entries are denied. Mayfang going to jump across the wall instantly. Constant ult to the face. You cannot fight, you cannot steal. Shinky, a passenger, wishes he could attach himself to somebody else, but that is denied as well.
To how it changes the game, if it does at all.
Yeah, sure.
It's not just making ADs even more powerful, but Chaz going mid.
They are certainly very powerful. Mayfang gets knocked to the side and then dragged right back, flipped into the waiting arms of Chaz, who's now 5-1-2. Another flip of the wrist, and Poltron now in trouble. Actually going to fall on down. It doesn't matter though, because between Zoranus and Praetor, they are wiping the floor.
And look, last week, crazy things going on, of course. But look, the teams that were better on the day got those dubs, and that's exactly what we're expecting. But look, we got standings to have a look at. We're coming in with 5 games played. There should be 7 played, and we might have ties, we might not have ties, but at least there's starting to be a bit of separation here on the leaderboard. Dire Wolves, the only team undefeated, looking like they are. Bright as Rain to maybe be taking that top position. That could change today, of course. You know, we'll talk about that a little later on, but Chiefs and PGG both tied for 2nd at the moment. Team Bliss have broken away. They have locked in the 4th position for the moment, with 5th, 6th, and of course 8th belonging to Mammoth, GZ, and Peace. But fortunately, we get to see Peace finally play today.
We do. We finally get to see Peace play. Also, Ground Zero going to be playing Kanga today, so while those teams do have a 1 next to their name in the wins column, that was a forfeit win against Peace. So we're going to see a lot of extra things there, a lot of exciting new things there, right? Either Kanga or Ground Zero will win. Peace, welcome to the LCO. We'll talk about it in their match, but what a big week it is for Peace to kick this one off. Chiefs day 1, Dire Wolves day 2, I believe it is. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed. They definitely have you know, a little bit of road to catch up on. But look, kicking off the day, we got Bliss, we got Mammoth, and then PGG and Dire Wolves is that second one. Whew, a chance for Dire Wolves to maybe get that first L, although PGG looking a little shaky last week. We'll see if they fix things up going into week 3. And of course, the game to round out the day, we got GZ up against Kanga, as you mentioned. That is going to separate them on the leaderboard. So it is going to be a battle for 6th or 5th place outright. Hopefully, we'll see one of those teams take a W. You know, that's usually what happens in these games, Kitty.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Game 2 specifically, we have Dials vs Pentanet.gg, and even up against Chiefs, which they came in this split as the super team, just winning, I believe, Split 2 of 2022 as well. So it's a big surprise for everyone because we did not expect Dials, especially with Zoranus and Poltron being relatively new to the league, to do so well, and them being up against PGG is definitely going to test their might this week.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that, of course, as you mentioned, is the match of the week. We've got a lot to talk about there because, as I mentioned just before, PGG did look a little bit shaky last week, but then we've seen what they look like when everything's clicking, right? They just have so much great coordination coming through. Direwolves as well, though, look undefeated. They've also said that they're not really happy with how they've been playing, a little bit shaky on that win over the Chiefs as well. But so it's only uphill from here. It feels like the skill ceiling's still not met by both these teams.
That's exactly why this is super exciting, right? Because Pentanet's a team that a lot of the domestic teams that even play against them don't have sample size versing because they are primarily, again, for anyone who isn't aware, playing from WA, scrimming against Southeast Asian teams, avoiding all of the oceanic teams as best they can. So there's a big factor there to consider for teams like the Direwolves have to go up against them. They don't know what they're dealing with. They haven't practiced against them. And the Pentanet that we saw last week was admittedly very shaky. A couple of things that perhaps won't exist this coming game, such as perhaps the Caitlyn support not going the barrier, not playing in the same way that other Caitlyn supports have if you're going to pick it in the first place. It wasn't Pentanet that we saw last week against the Chiefs. Chiefs played well. Pentanet should come back in a little bit angry game and perhaps today against the Wolves.
Okay, any thoughts on that one, Skimmy, before we move along?
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see the power struggle at the top of the table, right? If Direwolves can retain their undefeated streak so far, or if it's a case of, PGG and Chiefs have got this big rivalry and Direwolves just get to flourish as a result of it, so they can be sort of like the middleman, the third wheel, just living their best life.
Living their best life, indeed. And look, we'll get to that match of the week, 7 p.m. today. Make sure you don't miss it. It is, of course, that second game of the day, so it's not too far away. You don't have to wait too long. But, of course, going into this week, it's a new week, new me, same old LCO cast, of course, for the moment. But it is a new patch,
new week,
so we're going to be playing on a new patch. Kitty alluded to it last week.
Singer,
Said you attended the cat's funeral, but she's finally been nerfed this week.
Yep, I attended the cat's funeral. Everyone in the entire League of Legends community has been celebrating ever since the introduction of patch notes 13.1b. And let's just go over all the nerfs. We see a lot of meta champions on this nerf list, but it's just a facade, like how Rusty said, Cassid and Lucian Nami, and even the Maokai Rise. All of these have been slightly nerfed. I believe Lucian, Maokai, Nami, Rise just received a tiny mana nerf. Not going to change their damage just too much, but Cassidon, his E, the Force Pulse was, the cooldown was increased, which I don't think matters too much because of course you still have the Rel and Saros available, which is the reason why this champion is so oppressive in that mid lane up against those mages that are currently meta. But of course, the last little champion that we have on the nerfed column is Yuumi, and just to update you guys on what Yuumi got nerfed is that her auto range went from 500 to 425, which is a huge decrease in range. And the only time you do get to have that 500 back is when your passive is available. It does go back to 400 once you have used up that one slot. But of course, the your adaptive damage also has been reduced by quite a lot. And the Zoomies, the AP ratio was also removed. And due to all these, I believe, nerfs onto Yuumi, Zoranus, Mr. ZZ on top, said that the Korean solo queue for Plat Plus is 38% for Yuumi.
Hey, that's what you like to see.
As in 38% win rate?
30%, yeah.
Because it used to be a 38% pick rate. Like, it used to be that highly picked.
Yep.
So I'm glad that that's
Uno
gone.
card.
Yeah.
Bang.
It's reverse.
Anything you want to touch on in terms of the buffs?
And I mean, I think we could see Orianna. For one, I think that Orianna is the biggest one of that list. Zoe's quality of life changes are really big for Zoe. And it's this weird nuance of like if the person who's put to sleep, they take enhanced damage, but if they get woken up, then it's not actually even like a relevant buff.
Yeah.
But I think in certain situations that Zoe buff could be very big. And Zoe players, Dajang, will be very happy to see
For
that
sure.
one.
Okay, and we have some system changes as well. So let's have a quick look at what has been changed other than just the champs in this patch. And there's not a lot here on the screen, but there are some relatively big changes. We got the Chemtech Drake coming back.
Yeah, it's not doing very well.
No.
So it has been changed a little bit to try and give it some extra quality of life buffs. But at the end of the day, Chemtech Drake's in this weird spot where it's not really relevant because it kicks in at half HP. And so it's only like a niche soul in a lot of ways. So we're not really seeing much use from the soul itself. The Rift itself, still perfectly fine. But I wouldn't worry too much about the Chemtech Drake and soul and any of the changes attributed to that one. The big ones here, Grievous Wounds. The short answer is 25% to 40% is the heal cut change for all aspects of Grievous Wounds now, which means, you know, your cheap Executioner's Calling, Oblivion Orb, Bramble Vest, all going to be really valuable and really valid picks now, and you should start seeing a lot more of that. Healing's been reduced a lot as well with the fighter item changes, so the Grievous Wounds items get even more valuable. And so, you know, you've got the big one is Eclipse losing Omnivamp, and in general, Omnivamp's gone with the fighter item changes. It's mostly lifesteal now, so it makes things like Aatrox, who's been running rampant, you know, taking out a lot of the low mobility carries bot lane, doesn't heal as much. Can still build the item, but not going to heal off the Q the same way. That's the biggest thing. And then the marksman adjustment items, Kitty, I'm sure you've been dealing with a lot of this in solo queue. Crit being changed from 60 to 40%. For me, it's Navori Quickblade above all else that I think got the biggest buff. And I'm thinking we'll see a bit more Ezreal from this among Zeri is another one who benefits a lot. I don't know if the IE change has done that much. I think it's a placebo thing for people, except with the exception of, I would say, Draven, who, because he spins axes anyway, is doing high base damage, has a steroid on the W. Those crits are just invaluable.
So, arguably, though, with the IE changes, you know, activated at 40 instead of 60%, the game time has been much shorter, so it might competitively have a bit more value now? Is that what we're potentially going to see?
I don't actually think the value of IE has changed, because like the way that I see it, right, is like, it activates at 40%, that's great. However, your crit chance is still 40%.
Yeah.
So you may not rush it. Like, there might be a world where it's really cost efficient to go like Zeal into IE or something like that, but I haven't explored like all of the possible options. I think right now it's just Draven, maybe Caitlyn. Maybe Caitlyn.
Caitlyn is certainly Spike.
Jhin could benefit from it as well with the guaranteed crit, Okay.
What were you going to say, Kitty? Sorry.
Oh, well, the biggest change for these ADC items is that IE and Navori are very viable as second items now in the, to purchase in the game. And of course, I think with this IE and talking about which champions could potentially buy it second, I would love to see Caitlyn start buying IE second instead of that rapid fire Gale Force combo that we so desperately see in the LPL and sometimes occasionally in the LCO. So it's definitely going to help champions like Caitlyn that have a lot of range like the Aphelios, perhaps even. But with the, I believe, Grievous Wound changes, the support item got changed, which is the Chemtech Putrifier, and that item no longer provides any Grievous Wounds through the shielding, healing from those enchanters.
So when you would heal someone, they would get Grievous Wounds for a set amount of time. That's gone.
Yeah, that's gone. Only when the enchanter damages the enemy, which I don't ever see a Lulu walking up.
Does Pix count?
Pix does count, yes.
Lulu
Nami's
Giga
still
Chad
very Giga Chad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, so they're all the changes for the moment. I guess we'll see once we jump into today's games. The only region that has been playing on this patch so far was the LCS over the weekend. So, you know, I saw you guys bloody scaring those VODs to see what was going on in terms of the champs, in terms of the changes. But look, we'll see how much of that is going to be spoken about as we move forward. For now, it is time to quickly talk about you guys, because we love you. And your content. We use you for your content. That's what From the Fans is all about, right? Hashtag LCO on the Twitter sphere. Use that instead of the @LCO, but also @LCO. Just use them both for good luck. But hashtag LCO, don't miss out on that one. And today, we are asking what your favorite snack is to eat while you're playing League of Legends. I've got many, mostly thanks to tilting, a little bit of rage eating, of course. I'm an emotional eater. It just happens, and it seems to happen a lot in solo queue for me. So I think we've got a fair few of you guys send them in already, so let's have a look at what you guys like to snack on while you're playing. Anything from @menulog, because I heckin' love menu luckin' menu pog woo huckin' who. That's what's going on here. Thanks, Sangy, for that one.
Yes, Frank.
Damn.
I can't read.
He's on it.
Yeah, he really is.
Frank is
what's
so
up.
awesome, guys. We love Frank. We stand him.
Frankie
Shout out
bless.
to both of Frank's arms.
He's a bit of a
his
big
he's a
arms.
tank, big weapon.
Big bit of a tank.
and
Bit of a
his
tank.
and his chest and his abs and his selfie game. It's been getting better. Anyway, look,
Yeah,
let's talk about the next one. I think we actually have a lot of submissions, so let's just rush through them. I typically enjoy an ice-cold Dare iced coffee. I wonder why you'd say that. Along with delicious meat pie, both of which I can have delivered to my door, all thanks to the incredible team at Menu Look. Wow, everyone's really,
We've got,
you know,
we've got
We've
some
got
big Menu Look
Some
fans.
super fans in the chat.
Yeah.
Real
Big
okay.
fans,
Respect,
making their way
respect.
onto the broadcast. Thank you, Amumu_IRL. Hit him with a follow on Twitter. Obviously has some great opinions. Let's have a look at contestant number 3. It is Calvin at Team Bliss_ES. Got some mammoth steak cooked. Ooh.
It's impressive because they're extinct.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage that?
Nice you found that, eh?
Had a
Some
conversation
prime mammoth wagyu.
on another broadcast
A5.
about
A5 grade.
are
Absolutely.
mammoths mammals?
That's a snack?
Mammoths,
Mammals.
mammals.
Oh no, I'm just looking at why are steak snacks for Calvin?
Because
What's-
Calvin's a big dog.
I just ate 3/4
Yeah,
of
why
a
is
chicken.
it-
It's a snack.
You know, the recent festival that I went to had like meat on a stick, like a snack, like steak. Like they were like sample our amazing like A5 Japanese wagyu.
Yeah.
And it was just like a
Sheesh.
skewer with like a little bit on top.
But
It
cut-
was a snack,
Just a little bit.
like a square cut.
Not like
As a cube.
not like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
T-bone with a skewer
No,
around through.
no. That's just the bone.
That'd be my snack. mate.
Imagine
Either way.
dry-aged mammoth. It's just been sat there for millions of
Oh,
years. And he's like, we're going to cut through this
Be
one.
like a brick.
Beautiful.
Can you make that happen for us?
I could, man.
Be a
Oh,
brick.
thank you.
You find the
Absolute-
lab.
Absolute legend. You
We'll
are.
get the DNA. We'll just reconstitute it. We'll bring
This
it all
is
back
how
to life.
Jurassic World happened. I
Yeah,
believe.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
bit dangerous, man. Bit dangerous.
a little bit deadly.
Thanks, Skivvy. Look, we got a few
Yeah,
more
cheers,
to have
mate.
a look at. Let's see what you guys are sent it in. Of course, thank you to the 3 previous. We got MLG__. The blood of his enemies is his favorite snack. Understandable. Men's warrior.
MLG.
Who are his enemies?
Kitty.
What, me?
Hmm.
I stand a Melg. We have a 100% win rate in that bottom lane. So I don't know why you're putting me up against the Mash Fix.
Am I an enemy because
I
I'm
think
a
you
bard
did that
player?
yourself the other day, mate. That's all I'm saying.
Are we enemies because we both play bard? Like we're competing for the same.
Usually Bard
Title?
mains are pretty nice to each other. You
It's
know
true.
what? You know
true.
who hates each other? Rengar mains hate each other. It's like cats. You know how cats piss on their territory? They just love their
Yeah,
own
yeah,
territory
Rengar
and they
mains
just think they're
Okay.
the best cat.
Do Rengar means like anything?
Rengar.
Ah,
Oh,
you
true.
got me there. You got me there.
I can't be that.
Invisibility.
Invisibility is something they probably like as well. Do we
Bowlers.
have any more? Or are we? Okay, we got one more to have a quick look at from you guys. It is Coach Ash.
Oh,
Cheese
God.
to meet you. Men's, is this like a sign? Are we going to see some rat today in the Rift?
I'm gonna call you out, Ash. This is the second time you've tweeted this on the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just reusing this photo. Your jokes aren't getting any funnier, Ash. Get another rat photo with the cheese. Come on, at least
well,
get something new.
We were talking about aged meat before. Now we're talking about aged content. It seems
Oh.
like that's all we're here for today.
Come on, Ash.
Anyway, you guys, if you've had enough of me, you can go back and watch last week's games as well, thanks to YouTube. YouTube.com/@LCO if you want to catch up on everything. You don't have to watch the whole VODs, but they are there, of course. You can watch the highlight packages us, people behind the scenes. Get ready for you guys at home, so you don't have to
The real
sit there
heroes.
for the games are generally shorter this split, so if that's not short enough for you, we've cut them down even further, so you just get to look at the highlights.
You know
and
what we should do?
that's pretty good.
Somehow figure out a way, because everybody is so dopamine scroll, looking at short today, somehow compress our highlights into a 30-second TikTok reel. It's like, oh, the game sucks, okay, next. Okay, oh, this one's interesting. Oh, look at the VOD.
But that's you are the one that has to encapsulate.
Okay, I
it in
need
30
to hit
seconds.
these one-line bangers, those zingers, those moments where Rusty's like, "Oh, is that right, Skimmy? What happens?" Just like the
That's
intro.
how I respond to everything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's true.
is that so?
Oh, is that right, Skimmy?
Oh, Drew, mate.
Oh,
Do you guys know which game's up first?
Yes, mate.
What is it?
A
Bliss
good game.
Mammoth.
A good, a good game for sure. It is Bliss and Mammoth. Let's talk
One of
about
us knew.
Mammoth first. Of course, they got a big win last week. You know, a few people weren't quite expecting it. I think we all got our predictions wrong in that game. But it is great to see Mammoth starting to put the pieces together. You got Voice and Entrust down in that bot lane, who occasionally come online. But it felt like a bit of strength by committee. Everyone else doing the work. Akano rather, sorry, doing a really good job in the jungle last week. And I'm keen to see what they're going to be able to do up against Bliss.
Yeah, I mean, with the IE changes for this patch, Voice just comes to mind. He is that Draven player, and he did bring it out last week. But I believe the third match was the Seraphine, which I don't enjoy. I don't think he's won on Seraphine in his career, so I don't know why the coaches keep drafting him this champion. It's so sleeper. You could put him on a hyper carry like that Draven once again, especially with the item changes, and he just carries you to that victory. But we also need to highlight that Kano and Dajong just looked a lot more in sync for that second week, and it did bring them at least one victory.
Yeah.
It certainly did. And look, up against Chiefs, they did cop an L in their last game, but you know, maybe they're angry gaming. Maybe they learned a thing or two last week and they're going to be able to put that on paper today.
If I learned anything, it's that they win when they're angrier, when they play the Draven Nautilus style of game instead of, as Kitty's saying, the Seraphine play style. So I would very much prefer to see them play towards their bottom lane and be aggressive again.
Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of aggression, let's have a quick look at Team Bliss, because the most aggressive jungler in the league's probably on this team. That's Why Not. We love Why Not around here. We've got a lot of stands, but of course, we've got to talk about Daystar in mid, who finally started to show what he's capable of last week, starting to really sort of feel himself. You know, Team Bliss, they have had those communication issues, but they're slowly and surely being ironed out throughout this group stage.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they ran it back with two pretty identical games, right? And an Elise Renekton top side with an Ashe support, and it really just opened up so many engage opportunities, but just a lot of early game tempo for them to run rampant with, cause a lot of chaos, and the map allowed Daystar to do what he does best, which is try and draw all that attention to a certain lane, and be that magnet, be that bait, if you will, and allow him to really showcase his mechanics. So I think for them, it's just about refining that now. It's obviously a big confidence boost for them to find themselves in the outskirts of that illustrious top three. Question now becomes, right, how consistent that can be and sort of what else they have up their sleeve going into that group stage. So I think they've got themselves in a pretty comfortable spot. They're just going to continue to scale on up as time goes by.
So the thing for me with Bliss is that they're very good at getting early leads. They're struggling to convert that early lead into a clean game.
Yeah.
And for example, Why Not? You know, someone who we credited for a fantastic path on his Elise game, you know, doing something unconventional but extremely effective. Also averages, I think, the second highest damage taken and the highest average deaths in the jungle role. So for a jungler that gets those leads, he's also equally as skilled in throwing it away. And that's the big thing that they need to work on as a team. It's not just Why Not stats, it's the team stats that need to be taken into consideration. Because he's dying as a result or a product of perhaps a shot call, right? It's not always just him tunnel visioning on something.
Well, maybe Why Not was focusing a bit too much on those post-game celebrations and less on the game itself. But maybe that'll change going into this week. We'll see if they can go toe-to-toe with Mammoth, because, look, on paper, we're probably all thinking Team Bliss is looking like the favourites just from, you know, recency bias, what we've seen against them up against other teams. But Mammoth are a bit of a sleeper team. You look, sometimes they can not play super well, but then other times they can all pop off and have their game.
Talking about sleepy, Zoe has a sleeping bubble trouble, and Zoe got buffed. Dajong is that Zoe player, so I'm excited to see how this mid lane 1v1 will play out, because of course Daystar has been proving himself in the later games that we've seen so far. And then just Dajong, I think with his champion pool coming into Daystar, we're going to really test how he is going to play up against this pocket pick.
Okay, well, what are we thinking about the top lane? Chi-Chi up against Lived here. Are we thinking Lived with that experience is going to have way more of an advantage? Because Chi-Chi just has those pocket picks, right?
So Chi-Chi, from what we've seen of him, hasn't done anything surprising or crazy, right? He's just been a fairly solid option for them in top lane, where I feel like Lived has always had a recipe, he's always had a play style, he's always been a very similar... the way that he sees the game has always been very much the same. He would rather play the Cassante and get dove than he would, you know, play a rumble and back away from the tower and just like throw an equalizer to clear it, or like be a gangplank and do that cross map. He'd rather deal with the dive, which is unique to him because most other top laners don't want to die. He says, bring it on. And I feel like this is one of those matchups where it might actually be two players with what feels like similar ideologies in lane going head to head.
Yeah.
But Lived is a very good laner.
He really is. And someone else that's extremely efficient laner, especially when they don't get forced by their coach onto Seraphine, is Voice. So let's bring him in for the pre-match interview. Voice, have you had a word with your coach? Are you going to be jumping back onto something you're much more comfortable with this week?
I don't know what I'm playing this week, to be honest, whatever the draft allows. Seraphine was kind of the result of having no bans. We didn't really know what to pick, so we just kind of said, let's just pick a bot lane that can just kind of lose quietly, and maybe Chi-Chi can carry us, and we didn't lose quietly, we lost very loudly, so It's honestly my bad, not the coach's bad, but we'll see what happens this week.
That is completely fine because we did see glimpses from you guys of the early game, especially from Akano on that Vice. So please tell me how Mammoth is planning on improving this stability later on into the group stage as well.
At the moment, we're really trying to work on just getting our entire early game, just making sure we can win every single early game, making sure we can get it consistently. Because I feel like at the moment we're quite inconsistent in the early game. Because once we're mid-late game and we're ahead, we're actually quite good at closing the games out. The issue we're just having is consistently getting these leads in the early game. So we're trying to work on getting that through every lane instead of just through bot lane, because that's kind of what all of us are used to. So we're trying to work on a lot of mid jungle, a lot of top jungle, a lot of that top side kind of gameplay instead of just looking at bot lane only.
Are you pumped with these marksman changes going into the B patch? Do you think it's going to affect, this bot lane, and it's going to be less weird with the support meta, all these crazy picks coming through? Do you think it's going to stabilize, go back to what it used to be?
Honestly, I think most of it's pretty fake. I think even on Draven, his axe is bugged right now, so if you catch it at a certain time, the crit damage is lower, so he isn't even better. Samira is a complete bait. That item is trash second on Samira. Honestly, it just doesn't even feel like it's that big of a power spike second now, other than maybe on Caitlyn. So I think the bot lane meta will probably stay the same. I think the only thing that really impacted the meta was the huge Yuumi gutter, which I think is honestly good for the game because fuck that champ.
Well, it's okay. I'm sure we all share the same opinion, boys. But something that you didn't touch on was this Navori buff as well. And we've seen a bit of Ezreal and Zeri come back into the meta. But of course, you said that Yuumi was gutted as a result of that. So tell me a bit more about this.
I think Navori was pretty much always better on Zeri. It was pretty rare that you actually got opportunities to build IE on Zeri. I think having your E up ever since they changed the way her E worked is actually way more valuable than having extra damage on your Q. I think Ezreal, he's a weird champ. I think right now he's definitely okay, but with the current ADCs in the meta, he can't really lane. He just gets bullied out because everybody's just taking double of Hail Blades and it's just really unplayable. So I think he definitely needs some help. I think if you can get a good matchup for him, he's strong, but he's definitely not what everybody thought he could have been going into the patch with all the Essence Reaper buffs and the Navori buffs at the same time.
Okay, well, we'll see how that statement evolves. We'll see what you guys end up playing today. Hopefully, you get something a bit more fun down in that bot lane, but Voice will let you go. Good luck.
All right, thanks, King.
Everyone's getting on the bandwagon. Where's my... We don't have the crowns at the ready anymore. We need that. We'll play, celebrity heads at one point for the champ conundrum, but that's not today.
Someone Photoshop a crown onto Mac's head right now. Zoom in. All right.
Slowly falling
Continue.
over.
Yeah, I didn't know where I was going. Either way, look, Dare fan vote time. Get those points in. Let us know what you think is going to go down here in the first game of the day. Because, look, arguably, I'm giving Mammoth probably like a 30% win rate here, which is, I think, pretty fair. Pretty, high chance of an upset if Bliss aren't bringing their A game.
Yeah, I think, as you've already mentioned, though, Bliss have been really, really strong in those early games, and if they can not get dissuaded with a crazy mid-game fight, where everything's sort of come unstuck by a Dragon or a Baron, for instance, then I think they just cruise through this one. 'Cause for me, the concern with Mammoth is that they've shown a fair deal of stuff, right? The Seraphine in the bot lane, the Mordekai's in the top lane. I don't think they've really settled on an identity, a style that they want to go towards. It's kind of like, let's see what we can look to try and match or counterpick. How does this actually function as a five-man squad? So they might get in their heads a little bit too much. I hope for their sake they can figure something out, because they've had some pretty phenomenal moments, right? They're showing up against Chiefs, against PGG as well. They caused a few mechanical outplays, so I'd like to see them tap into that and just go for comfort.
Okay, well, let's jump into the predictions and see what we've chosen. Looks like everyone's going for what I would say is the favorites. Yeah, big pink. Lots of pink going on here. Twitch chat, rocking the Dare fan vote, of course. Make sure you get those Twitch points in. So, Kitty, Bliss, how are they going to win this game?
Well, Bliss is kind of a similar situation to PGG, right? We keep comparing that Bliss has a very aggressive mid-jungle, but if we throw it over to, I believe, Shernfire and Dongi, I think they're probably the best mid-jungle that we have so far in the league. And even Mammoth was able to outplay that, but they weren't able to close out the game with the similar lead. So I think something very similar is going to play out for tonight once again.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the side select. Who's picking what side? We got Bliss starting red side, going for the counter pick. Who do you think they're giving that one to, Rusty?
The man who's played 67 solo queue champions in 200 and something
Does his name
games.
start with D?
It does, and it ends with A-star.
Oh. Hey.
I think they'll be giving their counter pick
The why not A-star?
to why not A-star?
Yeah.
to their jungler.
Yeah.
Surprise. No,
Beautiful.
I mean, he's got so many champions. Well, it'd be rude not to, right? He played Aurelia. He's the only one that's played Aurelia so far. We have seen it in some other regions. I believe the LPL actually played it as well.
Yep.
Missed all of its abilities and got a nice solo kill highlight, but Aurelia has a lot of potential, so it's always exciting to watch it.
What's so funny? Huh?
You didn't have to do him like
He missed everything.
Xiao Qinghua from the LPL played, I believe, Irelia into Kasten as a straight-up counter. And his first debut on this Irelia, he missed everything and got killed by the tower.
Unlucko, Malacco. That's all I can say.
Happens.
Look, happens to the best of us, even in some of the best leagues, in the best of the regions. Major regions too. Look, so if it's happening to you in solo queue, you don't have to feel so bad.
What matters is that you send it. More than anything else, what matters is that you have that attempt.
You had the confidence to attempt it.
Yeah.
You tried.
Gave it a red hot crack.
Yeah.
Now look, are we expecting any of these nerfed or buffed champs today? Do we have any insight onto if the champ select's going to be a little bit curious? And look, I'll leave it with you guys to talk about it because I've just got the best news ever, huh? First game's ready to go. Let's jump in.
Let's do just that then, Mac. Let's see what actually happens. New changes, new champions, new ideas for those
No
new
more Yumi.
item builds. No Yumi, goodbye. Seraphine's been banned away, so Voice has been told, you're never allowed to play that one again, mate. Give us a real Lady Gary.
I mean, Seraphine taken away by Bliss. Varus going to get locked in here first with Caitlyn up and Ashe removed. It is entirely possible that we get a Varus-Caitlyn bot lane together.
Sure.
That is a fairly common pairing. Does also mean that Caitlyn can be picked as an ADC on the opposing side. And right now, as you heard from the interview with Voice, I think Ezreal is really good right now. And I do agree with him, however, in that the reason we won't see Ezreal is because we're seeing Varus and Caitlyn and Ashe and like all of these meta champions like Heimerdinger as well pushing.
How do you trade?
Yeah, just impossible to deal with. And you don't really get to the point where you are strong even though you've got cheaper item spikes. And it's not even the cheap item spikes anymore, it's an Essence Reaver.
But that's it. You
build.
get that brand new build, right, that we want to see actually go into action, but obviously no point dwelling on that until we do get to see it. So at the moment, two very much long-range marksmen, the Varus on one side, the Caitlyn denied from the other, and pair that with a Sejuani. So Team Bliss will have to show us a little bit different here today.
And I really like why not going for this Sejuani, though we know him as like an Elise-style aggressive player, and of course Elise is banned. The reason I like Sejuani is it denies it from Akano, who is playing with melee, mid lane, and top lane players, right? There's the Akali, there's the Sylas for Dajong. So that's not going to exist. This is feeling a little bit more like a Xin Zoe style, perhaps draft from their top side, though I wouldn't be surprised to see mid held here as a pick, and another bot laner locked in. The advantage of Bliss on the red side here is that they can still go for a counter in any capacity if they would like. Sona, while it's being hovered, we saw in the LCS, it actually did go quite well, but that was also Team Liquid playing, I believe.
Oh yeah,
So,
we have a Team Liquid down under, mate.
yeah.
No worries.
Team Mammoth Esports Club, looking like 5 Korean players, of course.
Absolutely, full import squad. Karma, however, is going to be locked in, right? And if that is to be a mid Karma, then obviously works really, really well with the Xin to try and get him online as quickly as possible. Be a bit of a skirmishing Titan. The response is, well, I guess really for Lived, it is 3 games in a row now as the Crocodile.
Yeah, and it might be a Crocodile into top bans. I don't know how much they are afraid of Chi-Chi's champion pool, but Jax is the first obvious one. Because you have a Sejuani, you're not afraid of some really simple even matchups. Like, for example, Nah is suddenly really easy to deal with. Even though Nah can like rush-plated steel caps and like kite you and keep you at bay, having Sejuani there is really dangerous. So you can control that lane, control that 2v2.
Yeah.
So it may not be a Nah ban. I wonder where else they would choose to go, right? Like, maybe not even top lane. I feel like Jax is you covered. You maybe Fiora. But
Well, that's the question, right? Are you concerned about Chi-Chi playing as Fiora or the Camille, even the Gwen for perhaps, right? So it seems to be definitely the case of just make sure that this is going to be the most winning top lane possible to find a point of strength. Response from Mammoth, however, is let's try and make sure that we have the better harass in the spot lane. So they've denied away the Lux first of all, as we already saw. Seraphine take it away too. What else would you look to try and remove away from this Caitlyn if you really want to make sure you can get the edge?
I mean, Caitlyn really likes lane control, so because you've taken away the Karma and you've banned the Lux, I'm struggling to find any other obvious choices for bans. You know, there's the cheese choice of a Morgana, but I feel like Karma deals with Morgana really well.
Sure.
Soraka could be another choice, but I don't know if that's something that Benvi would play. I think in reality, you could also just go a melee support here and try and deal with the Enchanter the traditional route, right? The Nautilus Leona Blitzcrank type of avenue.
Yeah,
You've already got
Blitzcrank, that'd be good.
Yeah, you've already got the Sejuani for it as well, right? So like your comp makes a lot of sense. You've got Engage.
There it is.
There's the Soraka, so look, case in point, he wants a bit more lane control.
Hey, you're hot on the money in terms of what you're really looking for, right? And I guess this really says to me, you've got so much CC, right? You've got a trap, a silence, a stun, and engage. Everything to really try and complement your team, just having a quadrant locked down for yourselves. In terms of what you banned away, right, you have left up that Cassante, so for me this is a massive vote of confidence, so you're not really concerned about their ability to navigate that champion.
And I do think the fact that Cassante's up though and Renekton was locked in is always going to be a little bit curious to me, because Cassante's just so strong. I feel like this patch has done nothing but help him as well. But lived perhaps... No, he is a Cassante player. We said that he was a Cassante player before we got into this draft.
Yeah.
Just wants to have the Sejuani Renekton combo. And didn't prioritize the Cassante ban, just got rid of the carry matchups instead. Mind you, at all times, Cassante, when it comes to playing tank versus carry, Cassante still kills them. That is the danger, right? You may get outscaled in your top 1v1, not even as much into a Renekton matchup, but both top laners are going to be killing the enemy carries. Zac is a curious choice, because we have been seeing a chunk of Zac in solo queue. We've seen it once or twice in competitive.
Yeah.
But this is also looking like a mid Zac.
It's a very flexible champion, literally, isn't it?
It's either mid or support.
Yeah.
I would expect it mid. Caps has played it mid. It actually was very successful. It was into, I think it was into a melee champion. But the point is, it pushes really hard level 1, and then you're just a Zac with levels, right? So you become stronger and stronger, and it was building AP. I like Zac support. So
you're a big fan, I know.
Quietly hoping that's where to go.
When we saw a fair bit of it last year, I think it was Biopanther playing it in the top lane. Also, we had it in the jungle as well. We had it in support. So it's one of those champions that can certainly fit the build to really do whatever you like. And you've got yourself a ton of engage. And I guess into a Yone should be a good way to try and beat back that scaling, or beat back that early tempo check with the items that a Yone can obviously look to try and invest in, and maybe be the cheese they need to try and disrupt A-Star once more.
Yeah, it was locked. Yone was locked in with zero hesitation, though, in response to this. Now, I feel like the Yone pick itself, you see a Zac jumping at you, you can dodge it very nicely with your E. You can separate yourself from the clone and then play distances, but at the same time, you're going to be melee. You're going to be a little bit more in his face. I think that the Yone is going to have a pretty good time in this matchup overall. It should be perfectly fine for him. And I do think, again, the composition of Bliss, melee mid lane, with the Sejuani, melee top lane with the Sejuani, 2 really good lanes to gank, and a Caitlyn Soraka who ideally are left isolated and just pushing the 2v2 and pressuring is best case scenario for Bliss, and is probably the #1 goal that they would have coming into this game. So bullying the game from level 1, and why not gets to control the pace of the battlefield. That's Bliss's perfect scenario.
Certainly is, right? If they can really invest in the idea that we don't need any funny shenanigans to try and get a lead. We've been exceptionally strong in the early game as it stands already, right up there with the very best in the league. We're going to invest once more into that early aggression that does stem from the jungle. So I'm curious to see really how Mammoth decide to navigate this one. If they do say we need resources in the bot lane to try and really disrupt this Caitlyn and Soraka, obviously they've got a pushing lane with the Karma and the Varus. You'd love to see that get a nice wave in to try and get some of those turret plates and obviously fuel the fire for this Xin to go any lane he likes. Not necessarily have to track the Sejuani, but say, look, I can influence these map states as well. Let's build up a big gold lead and let's do what we've done up against some of the big dogs.
I feel like we are going to have a game that revolves around junglers. Akano versus Why Not, see how it plays out. Xin Zhao wants to gank, but often would rather his lanes have gank set up for him. Well, he has that everywhere, right?
Yeah.
All 3 lanes have gank set up for him. Varus at 6, Karma with the W to follow that up as well if you want it, and just raw damage and push from bottom if you're looking at dives. Mid being a Zac, has the stretching strikes, has the elastic slingshot, has entry to those fights himself, and then Xin just follows through. And Cassante goes without saying, has got that ability to push you under the turret, CC chain, you lock you down with the Q3. Big opportunity here for Mammoth, I think, and for Akano to show similar aggression to the game that they won and handle Why Not and have a very solid start to this week.
Well, it's a big test, a big ask for Akano here coming into this one. We've been critical of him at times as to just how much influence he can deploy on the map, and up against a very potent squad who will be looking to try and do that very early on themselves. It's a case in point as to how strong these teams really are. As we said before, Team Bliss currently in 4th position, looking to try and break themselves in to that top 3 discussion. As for Mammoth, just 1 game behind them. A win here today would certainly set the tempo and, I suppose, disrupt a lot of our power rankings.
Yeah, a win here today would be very nice for Mammoth. It puts them straight into the middle of the standings overall, right? Competing with Bliss and genuinely will shake up how the group stages will look once we start that seeding process after the single round robin's completed. And I think also proves ways that they can win, right? Like cementing ways that they can win, because all we've seen from Mammoth right now is a game where they won lane at level 1 in bot. They won a 2v2. It was a Draven game that won at level 1. And they just dove the Draven lane. The recipe extremely simple once they had that lead. We want to see Mammoth have more of an even game. You know, perhaps a game that starts off close and isn't just a blowout, and they find those win conditions. So we can really find some extra points to look at.
I think to piggyback off that point, it's also the fact of, Cassante being let through. It's ego, cockiness, whatever you want to put it down to, the fact that it was up and available for somebody like Liv, and he said, I don't need it. Either I don't rate your ability to play it, or we're just too strong into it. So I'm really curious to see just how much Mammoth can showcase in this match, and what Team Bliss can do in the early game to get themselves into those comfortable leads. Well, let's jump into the action then. It's week 3. Can you believe it already? We're already whizzing through these matches.
Here we are. Time flies. Quick check-in as well now that we're getting fully into the game. You can see, of course, Mammoth with the win-loss record of 2-3, as we were talking about before. And then one of those was an actual win. One was a forfeit win against Peace. As lanes start off, both of bottom lanes going to start in their respective lanes. Voice going to cop a couple of auto attacks. And this is the place that we need to start, right? Karma against Soraka. Karma wants to push, harass, throw those Mantra Qs at you, right? Soraka is a pest. She plays in the bushes and just throws Q. So if you both hit each other with a skill at the same time, Soraka wins.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty of playing against this lane. And that's why whenever you see a Soraka, you're quietly wishing you had like a Nautilus that can hit hooks. And like hard win with Ignite as a threat. And let's just keep that in mind. And Trust has gone for Ignite. So they want that threat there.
So need to be hot on the money of finding the right opportunity to land that one down and really deny all that healing. They have double Grievous if you consider the Hail of Arrows as well. But a big part of that Soraka kit, right, is trading aggressively with your Q, your Star Forward, making sure you're regenerating all that HP back in the process. Looking at mid lane, this is obviously going to be the big talking point. Dajong showcasing something a little bit different, right? Playing the Zac. Excited to see how he can navigate this one. Sorry, up and available, usually banned away.
So bot lane has push here, right? Ben v Limas trying to keep Voice in and Trust under their turret. Why Not does find an opportunity to go for a bit of an early move. But it's just going to be a ward for now. I wonder if he sees as in comes back, because that's got kill threat.
Yeah, instantly.
Zero hesitation, sees him on the map and says, oh, it's on. We'll find him here. Sejuani, a very good duelist at level 3.
Certainly is. You've got Soraka coming as well. Charges in. Going to look for the stun. There it is. Oh, no. The red buff has actually helped him.
Red buff gives him a smack. Mammoth emote comes up from Why Not as well. Very nicely done by him. Simple playbook. Very simple playbook. Extremely simple execution. But very well done by the jungler of Team Bliss here as well. Why Not once again staking his claim as a very good early pathing jungler, knows how to get it done.
So he does, and a game that you labelled as being very important for the junglers to try and assert some control on. Well, there you go. First blood is found in just that position. Really going to snowball him ahead, and sort of similar sort of situation happened when he's playing the Maokai, right? Got tracked on very early, forced to be behind, fell down a few levels, and such a disaster when your team is craving your help.
And it does feel like Mammoth are very reliant on their jungler's proactivity. Now, there is a chance he can counter gank here, but Why Not already in?
We are on. Instant flash away, making sure he's not going to get locked in place by that stun. Look at the damage that comes out from afar, though. Voice really crippled there.
Yeah, they try and turn and put some DPS down onto Why Not, but immediately after the flash, Team Bliss said that's enough. That's all we really need. You can come back at a later date, get your clears off, right? You've still got 3 camps on the blue side of the map for Why Not to go back towards. Haven't really had a chance to look at anywhere else on the map just yet, but a quick check-in with mid. It is farming evenly, which is perfectly fine for both of them. Zac is fairly capable of farming level 1, just spamming W, pushing waves in. And then once you have access to abilities, you have more access to your healing on your passive by throwing them out. Can weather a lot of lanes. But top has also been going quite nicely for Liv. As expected, we called him a good laner. He's got the Renekton, and now he gets to move with Sejuani.
I'm getting flashbacks. This topside Krug just never gets to go to Akano. He always falls victim to it.
And it's gone.
Can't take him. It's
And
been
where-
smite denied.
Where does he go now? Wolf camps up, but if you look at mid, Daystar has push. Sejuani's going to go back towards the Scuttle Crab. It could potentially threaten if he wants Daystar to push with force, right? And that Wolf camp could belong to the Sejuani. Renekton's capable of instantly pushing waves.
Make it stop. He has nowhere to go. Everything is warded. He has no assistance from his teammates because they're in trouble too. Zac jumps in. He has the passive, so he can go into the afterlife.
Good damage.
Akano jumps back. They are to why not? They do take him out. And it is Dajong the benefit of that one. It's level 6 as a result. Finally, the punishment goes away.
Just a little bit far there from Why Not, or perhaps Daystar not fast enough to move, right? A couple of possibilities there. At the end of the day, Dajong does quite nicely mid-fighting.
Certainly
He's
is.
going to be on the turret after that E.
And he's in trouble.
He's dead to turret.
Copped the turret shot. Here's the flash, the flash. Dajong is now 2-0.
You know, one of the tragic things about Yone's E ability is that it doesn't go where you click it. It pushes back and pushes you forward, so separates you from the shadow or from the clone, or the wind, whatever it is. So it actually puts him under the turret there, and Daystar says, I will go down with the ship. If my jungler is dying, I am dying.
He had a crack. Ultimately, you've opened the floodgates to give Dajong some early lead. And once again, I just feel like we've seen this time and time again. Akano falls behind, Dajong pulls ahead, and it's all about distributing that farm, because right now you don't have a jungler to help.
Hello, Entrust. What are you doing here?
Another flash burn. Why not? It's just an absolute menace right now. He's got so much farm as well as so much KP.
The ward placed by Entrust will see him exiting, however, so at least Krugs are going to be free for Akano. He knows that. But the boots rushed from Why Not gets him very active around the rift, very much capable of making some big plays. We'll be getting closer to 6 as well. Drake won't confirm it, but he's got 2 camps to go back to, 5 camps total on his side of the map, and a blue buff to steal if he wants to. And just knowing the way Why Not's been playing so far, I wouldn't be shocked to see him go straight towards the blue buff as it spawns, as that is a very tragic noise.
It was a very tragic one, wasn't it?
That's just repeating.
It was like a cicada just fluttering in the wind. You can see quickly, just before we went into the pause there, a whole level lead now for Dajong over his counterpart in mid lane, right? So a lone Zac that could quite comfortably, if the game allows it, run rampant, take over, and sort of maybe raise a quest as to, okay, maybe we need to ban away to Zac 2 from this player.
Also an interesting game to watch for our first time on this patch with regards to heal cut.
Sure.
Because right now, there's a Soraka in the game. Yeah, there's a Zac in the game, both very heal-heavy champions.
Good point.
And it could be a possibility that we see some early anti-heal components purchased, which I would be looking forward to seeing how it performs. Now that it's gone up from 25% heal cut to 40%, a little bit more efficient, right, as an item purchase, just as the component. And especially against that Soraka and a Karma player, right? Lots of healing to be put there. But as Kitty mentioned before we got into this game, with the changes to the Chemtech Putrefier, not as simple as playing a support and giving everyone heal cut. You need to apply damage, so perhaps it's not as viable for the support to rush that one.
It'd be interesting to see where it comes from, as we've already seen for countless patches already. Champions like the Vi, for instance, are rushing the Chempunk Chainsword, right, and just getting that one online as quickly as possible. Obviously very valuable in terms of its stats for gold spent, but I guess when you're looking at this composition, where does it really go? Do you just say to Renekton, hey, you've got to lock that one in, you've got to be the one to try and set the pace of these skirmishes and give us that lead, jump on the Zac, and make sure he's not having a happy day as we do jump back in. Cloud Drake was slain, going the way of Bliss.
It must be said, this Zac is going to have an item spike very quickly. Yone is one of those characters that really wants to rush the boots too, where possible. And so Dajong's going to have a Demonic Embrace so much quicker as an item spike than that of Dajong with a full Mythic. Can influence the map so incredibly hard. And with that in mind, Drake number 2 is probably a big breakpoint for that. Herald is potentially a breakpoint for that one. We'll see exactly when Mammoth choose to contest, when Mammoth choose to fight. But right now,
Clappy hands go out.
He's
He's just not charged up the slingshot enough right there. Gets pounced upon by Why Not. Going to get sent into the afterlife, but holding on for the meantime. Still life leeching, denies the ult. And he's back to 25%. He lived life on the edge. The passive is still there, and Why Not is forced to flash to safety.
wow, I mean, that was Team Bliss definitely assuming it was just a 2v2. And surprise, the Xin Zhao comes in. They do enough damage to make sure the Zac stays alive. The Karma Shields do just enough work. And this is the product of the Zac getting those 2 kills.
Yeah.
Suddenly just a bit tankier than they were prepared to deal with. But why not also held his ult? Daystar held his ult. They thought they had the kill.
Yeah, reluctance, feeling like it was a foregone conclusion, but that's ultimately bitten them back. Forced to turn their sights right now back into the bot lane. That is going to be denied. You need to get away from that one unless the Varus arrow comes across. A couple of plates taken though as a result of that pressure.
Still a bit more relief for Akano above all else, right? The lanes are persevering to be able to afford him a couple of extra camps, a bit of extra experience. And the more that he gets to catch up, the happier they are going to be overall. But yeah, tragic situation in mid for Bliss because they definitely had lethal if they just used their abilities. Varus ulted bottom.
It's a max range Chen of the Corruptions, but it's just an instant disengage away and a bit of retaliation coming out of Limas here.
Yeah, they just got Benvied completely, right? They threw the Varus ultimate and then walk into a silence so they can't follow with a piercing arrow. No trade. Turns out the Caitlyn just wins that one. And that was a trade that was enacted by Mammoth.
Yeah, it certainly was. And they wanted to try and really push them back before they continue to push in these waves. It's just the Caitlyn lane doing what Caitlyn lane's designed to do, right? Shove it in, get as many of these plates as possible, and usually they're all gone before 14 minutes.
One thing I want to highlight here as well is we might hold that as Daystar's getting engaged on, jungler nearby.
Yeah, slingshot goes out again. Now both junglers are in the air. It's going to be a straight 2v2. Jumps in with the ult, looking for the execution. Crescent Guard goes through, but it's not enough to save Akano. Just too weak at this point in the game. The Afterlife will eventually be popped here for Dajong. And Daystar gets his sweet revenge with a double.
Yeah, easy little double there for Daystar. That's what happens when Team Bliss use their ultimates. They are much more dangerous. They'll lock it down. And also very good shot calling from them, right? Zero hesitation. The second Akano goes in, they lock him down. They use the Yone ultimate. They make sure that he's not able to do anything because they know he's weak, right? They're not going to give him a chance. They're not going to give him an inch. We'll see this one more time. Also, keep in mind at the forefront of this fight, the item spikes aren't purchased from Dajong yet. The Q does miss, but he can hit the auto attack. And then Q3, ult. Akano's stuck. It doesn't matter that you use the ultimate and try and slash people away from you because the Yone gets through that one. And quite simply, it is a Sejuani Yone. They're going to win the 2v2. And you've unfortunately gone for that 2v2.
Certainly have just fueled the fire. As to now some pretty big leads to be found in the CS department. Through both jungle mid as well as the bot lane as well.
Also the choice for Dajong here to actually go towards the cloth armor instead of perhaps prioritizing the completion of the demonic embrace. That cloth armor could have been a control ward for a bit of extra map control and then just hold off on your income. Finish the mythic. Try and be a little bit stronger, perhaps around a Drake fight as it's coming up. Not something that we're going to see from them.
Been a pretty big strong point, just to quickly interrupt you there.
No, you're right.
Has been a vision game for Bliss this game so far, right?
Yeah. I mean, the game's been revolving around can we find why not? If no, he's doing something. he's dangerous. Where is he? Has been a real point of focus. But if we're going to talk about items just quickly as well, Limas freely farming from level 1. Constantly pushing. He's on the clock. 11 minutes, 110 CS. Completed that Gale Force just in time for the second Drake of the game. Makes him extremely powerful. And Bliss are going to play towards that, obviously.
Curious to see which way he goes with his build. If it is to go into the IE or if he opts more for the range.
Dude, you know what I would love to see is time spent in enemy jungle at 15 minutes from Why Not. Percentage of game time spent in enemy jungle. He's got to be like above 50%.
Oh, it'd be 80%. Be something absurd.
Occasionally go clear your own chickens. Back to the enemy jungle.
He just walks back to his own line, goes, ah, yes, the sea of camps to clear.
So anyway, I started blasting.
Second dragon. Bliss are on it.
Oh, Daystar.
Certainly Mammoth in the area. Oh, Fate's End just jumps in. Looks at face. 3 people. That's beautiful for the Yone. Finds that 1 kill before he slingshots back. Voice kiting, weaving, but ultimately dying as members are flashing into action to snap away a few more kills.
So nicely done by Daystar. Again, he sees the angle, he sees the fight. Why Not sees a Drake and has tunneled onto it, but their mid laner said, well, this is very free. But it's the combo of Daystar's ult followed by the silence from Benvi. Means they're locked down, means they're stuck taking damage, and it's going to be an insanely high rip DPS combo here. Mammoth, quite simply, are contesting this Drake for what reason, right, in terms of that timing. There's a Zac coming from mid. He's going to get there, but by the time the fight's broken out, he's not even close. So it's a little bit too early from them. And Akano, at the time he dies here, I think there was a blip of he was about to run out of a Rift Herald. And I think it's gone.
Yes.
Don't see it on the map.
A rather unfortunate series of events. They've only really fueled the fire for what has been another categoric and systematic Team Bliss early game here. Up by 5,000 gold at the 14-minute mark.
I want to see these two fight. There's the Bramble Vest done from Chi-Chi. Liv's going for the Blade of the Ruin King build, so he's focused on that healing. But also, tell you what, Chi-Chi not by himself this time.
I'm sure Maximize is really happy right now, seeing a Blade of the Ruin King. Let's see if he can try and outplay a 1v3. Tether.
Oh, Liv, what are you doing?
Liv heard the music.
He said, bring it on.
He thought it's time to go on YouTube.
The beat dropped.
It's time to absolutely make a play, but ultimately, he's being caught becoming a big dog. And a little bit embarrassed.
It turns out the best move there was nothing.
Yeah.
He could have just walked away.
I tell
Just
you what,
expected more from Mammoth in reality, didn't
if he pulled that off, you'd be like, fire out this guy.
Oh, if they were committed to the diver, Cassante was going, he was ready.
He was ready to go.
And he's still well off top. The crazy thing about that trade is 3 people from Mammoth come up here, but Lived is healthier than Chi-Chi. So he's sitting fine. He's got lifesteal as well. He's got the Q with Max Fury. Can group with the team if he wants for Herald 2, but he's got guaranteed priority.
Oh, Akano, no. Stock between a rock and a hard place. Triple CC'd. Then there's the passive stuns. An icy demise. As 2 members fall once again, and mid lane firmly belongs to Team Bliss.
And I have to say this one more time. Daystar is playing very well this game. His ability to know the limits of Yone, but also recognize engage angles has been stellar. He's catching Mammoth when they're out of position. Limas, very nice Gale Force there, gets himself out of the stretching strikes.
Very nice.
Didn't pull a Praetor.
He's got the right binding this time.
I mean, we could say, yeah, could pull a Limas. Last time we complimented him for buying a QSS, he did die. It's almost like a title for AD carries now, isn't it?
Has to be.
Who claims the throne of dead in mid? Used to be Rare 7, if you remember that. Ronan.
I do.
Now competing in EU Master Leagues.
Now living his best life overseas. A cute little passage of play, really, from across the board, to be said. In goes Liv, looking for a nice little trade. And Chi-Chi's going to answer back and potentially bring him right back in.
About to have that ultimate up again, so should be okay if push comes to shove. Bot lane going to be fighting all in.
It certainly is. They start feeling strong and ultimately realizing that, hey, this Zac is still pretty strong as well. He's got a demonic embrace and just pops like a pimple on his return.
Yeah, he went for Entrust. He basically rationalized, I'm done for. Let's see if I can get a kill. Meanwhile, of course, Bliss are going to be trying to push top, threaten the dive. Mid is getting pushed in as well in that 2v2. So they're still comfortable with the outcomes of this if everything goes well. Might look for Chi-Chi, might just pressure the turret.
Yeah, why not just drifting on by? Ace in the hole comes all the way in from the jungle. He wants an assist more so than anything. Oh, they try to get the kill. Chi-Chi tried to get at least something there. His tower was gone, his wave is deleted. But the wish from the striker, too strong.
Of course, why not Lovin playing the piggy? He's got the piggy emote ready to go. Good little dive there. Of course, Caitlyn ultimate coming through, but at the same time, they broke that mid-outer turret prior to coming up there. Now, top outer is low. Mammoth are going to be able to defend this one for now. Dajung, must be said, has been playing well in Trust. Caught again.
Yep, certainly has been caught again in Trust. Needs a little bit of help right now. Thankfully for him, Akano's jumped in, stepped on a trap, popped the Crescent Guard, and tried to weather the storm from afar. Forced a flash at the final hour and just barely survives. Dajung now with the slappy hands says, come together, let's make something happen. 1v4, there's a flash, there's a disengage. He's got the passive. He just needs a team to back him up. Everybody from Mammoth right now is just burning flashes.
Why not by
for
himself?
free. Why not? Yeah, that's a disengage away. Dajung still just trying to do it all. He's trying to be a raid boss. He's trying to be a Titan. He's still living.
Back.
There's a shield, there's a heal. There's a little bit of survivability. Oh, there's the snipe. The piercing arrow gets a shutdown of all things. Oh, Dajung! He's tried to buffer it there with a slingshot flash. There's the hands, there's the grab. There's Benvi still on the flank saying, maybe don't touch any more of my teammates. Bit of a prolonged trade.
Amazing that all 3 of them get out there as well. Mammoth desperately hunting. Their shutdowns at stake, right? If that Sejuani falls, an extra 150 into the pockets. Daystar's become Akano real quick and is going to pillage the enemy jungle. We've got Drake up soon, but we'll look at this skirmish one more time. And my gut feeling here is that Limes could have been an absolute Giga Chad far more aggressively than what we see of him. Liv gets zoned out by the turret, Voice locks him down with the ultimate, and Limes walking forwards here could be dangerous, but I think the team must have called the Dajong's here on the flank and they were afraid of the Zac, and so he tries to exit, has to flash, and Trust hits a massive mantra and tries to flash away. Hits another one later as well, because during all of this, Why Not is just going berserk. Dajong comes in, proves why the Zac mid has insane value. 3 blobs on the ground, all of that health back. Because again in Trust, right, another 3-man queue allows Voice to find that kill. This could have been better for Bliss. This could have potentially been better for Mammoth. But all things considered, Mammoth gets shutdowns. They get what they're after. A lot of extra money into the pockets for them, which is much, much needed.
Some great fighting spirit. Rallied up and grouped together and ready to rock and roll. Frustration, as you say there, for Limes. Really does suck to be in a situation like that. Be like, I want to go in, but this could potentially happen. Forced to be backed away and shoot from afar like he's doing right now. Big damage onto Entrust, just dead. Liv removes him from the game. Bliss now find themselves a sole point, playing for an Infernal. And looking to siege once again. Dajong wants none of that. That's a disengage all the way there from Daystar. Benvi is the casualty, the price they have to pay for it. They get knocked up, let's bounce, let's fight. And let's find success if you're Bliss right now. They summon the Heralds. They're going to try and farm a few more kills, get a few more turrets, and get a big ace.
Chi-Chi jumps straight into a trap, gets locked down. Herald in the pocket. This is close to game, Skimmy. With another Rift Herald charge, the inhibitor's definitely going to go down in short order. And there's 4 members dead, 10 more seconds on the Xin Zhao. I wouldn't be surprised if they push for end here.
One more headbutt, and it may just seal their fate. In we go, looking for it right now. A single Nexus Tower, and a Dream, a Karma. Left their own devices, respawns are there. Damage not to be found. Why Not in trouble? Why Not very low? He's not dead yet, he survives. Barely. But Team Bliss claim the win.
With 20 minutes and 5 seconds on the clock, Bliss will find their win for Game 1 of Week 3 of the LCO here. And fantastic showing from them. Why Not, of course, showing his absolute category of dances.
Another win, another dance.
Zoomers around the world will enjoy. Or cringe at, who knows? That's up to them to determine. Either way, he's going to have a dance, and Benvi's just waking up.
Maybe.
But look, let's put it simply, Skimmy. It was a game that they won in short order. They didn't throw the leads away. There was a couple of dicey moments. They gave a couple of kills. You know, Why Not maybe a little bit too far one time, or they saw Why Not communicating one time.
Yep.
But they got straight back on the horse, straight back towards what was working for them, controlled their lanes and won the game.
Ultimately, that's really the story, I suppose, of that game when you sum it all up. A lot of aggression, Team Bliss showcasing their experience, entertaining a few cute ideas of let's just have a bit of a fight here and there and see what Mammoth can do, but a little bit too convincing on the day.
Yeah, interesting pick. I feel like we didn't really get to see too much of the grievous wounds. It didn't really come out at the point. You know, that game looked like Mammoth were finally just starting to come back into it. I looked down, I looked up, and they were ending. And I was like, what the hell just happened? It was absolutely out of nowhere, crazy. And look, like Mammoth, they gave it a crack, but it was just so hard from the start because Why Not was just Mr. Aggressive. But today, it just looked so easy.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens when your jungler, especially the Sejuani, starts that red buff and your own jungler, Xin Zhao, starts the blue buff. And when it comes to that 1v1 duel in your own jungle camps, you do end up dying. But of course, I do need to highlight that this Zac mid lane was a direct counter to this Yone, and we of course saw that solo kill coming out of Dajong. I do get the idea of Mammoth's composition. Voice kind of acts as your main source of damage. You do have a pretty low damage composition for mid, top, and jungle. They're all just very tanky frontline. And of course, Voice acts as that anchor of the damage from the back. But looking at Team Bliss's comp, you have so much mobility, like the Renekton, Sejuani, and Yone all comboed together. How are you supposed to function as this AD carry with minimum peel? And of course, we just see all these team fights not being able to well, of course, Voice can't play any of these team fights.
Why Not hitting him with the floss as well? Congratulations. Got another dub, got another post-game victory dance.
Benvi's my face when Why Not dances.
Yeah.
Straight after.
Just straight on the bloody face palms. Don't show me, please. I don't want to be acknowledged with this man on screen. But Kitty, a cool little mechanic that you pointed out to me is that during that fight where Mammoth almost won, Dajong, that flash midway through the catapult or whatever that move's called, he flashed right before it hit, which cancelled the knock-up. and cancel the interaction. So it actually stopped one of those players from being knocked up and stopped the kill from happening.
Yeah, I feel like Zac mid is such a niche champion. You have to be that Zac player to really pull it off. And of course, when it comes to the micro decisions that Dajong made in those team fights, like the one you pointed out where I believe Team Bliss were starting to trickle after they took a fight for way too long. And then, like you said, the slingshot comes out, but he cancels it with his own flash by getting that extra bit of distance. And I don't even think the Q hit in the very end, and that play kind of just died just like that. Of course, he was also missing a lot around the map. I feel like we could have seen a lot more from the Zac playing towards the side lane. Caitlyn and the Soraka was constantly pushed up. Of course, Akano wasn't like having the best time in the jungle, but you can work around this. You're not a champion that wants to full clear. Yone is that champion that wants to full clear. He has that late game security, but you have to make things happen in the early game.
Yeah, it just felt like a champ that can rotate really efficiently and just set up those ganks wasn't getting any real chances to gank except in that like team fight towards the end. And that's kind of like all we really got to see there. But look, Bliss played spectacularly, and we have Lee Mass to have a quick chat to for the post-match interview. Lee Mass, how you feeling? How'd that one go for the boys?
Feeling good, bro. Mac, to be honest, I've kind of missed you, man. Been ages since you've had me here.
It's been a while, hasn't it? Look, I'm glad to have you back. It's good to have a quick chat. You've been absolutely killing it down in the bot lane. Quickly, before we talk about the game, do you have any thoughts on the current changes going into the B patch for that bot lane, or is it just shove, shove, shove like we saw you just do?
Yeah, I think the meta may change a lot more with the next patch when they're buffing all the tank supports. But I think right now the meta, there are a few fringe changes, but I think it pretty much stays the same right now.
I feel like a bit of a third wheel here between you and Max. So I'm gonna just sit away here so I'm out of frame. But of course, welcome back to the LCO. This is your first interview, and I wanted to ask about this Caitlyn pick. We see it's so high priority for the side of Team Bliss. So walk me through all the meta ADCs and why you really enjoy this Caitlyn.
To be honest, I think about like the bot lane meta a lot, and I watch like a lot of different regions and stuff to try and get a read on the meta. I think Caitlyn, like by herself, is just quite a strong pick in isolation, and especially if you can secure like a good bot lane and a good support matchup, then the champion becomes really powerful in my opinion.
Do you enjoy, Benvi down bot? Do you think he's doing a really good job? Is he a sufficient support for your liking?
Look, I'm pretty picky when it comes to support, but yeah, Ben in general, I think he does a very good job down there.
He gets the job done, especially with that Soraka. A bit of bananaing in the bot lane. But of course, congratulations on the win. I believe Team Bliss is ahead in wins now. So one more rank up in the standings. And I'm excited to see what you guys have to offer in the group stage. And of course, I will see you tomorrow as well.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lee Mass. The man, doing work in the bot lane. And look, you can't really fault him. I feel like for their whole team, would he have the highest KD at the moment? He hasn't been dying a whole lot. He's just been fun.
Why not has the lowest? I think before today's game it was 2.
You said that
He's
already.
got that one on
I've
lockdown.
done the math. Yeah, he's got that covered. It might be Benvi. No, not Benvi. He had that game against a Nocturne where he was like 0-8.
The High Madonga
Yeah.
incident.
It might be Limas.
Maybe it is Limas.
Yeah, it might be Limas.
I think Daystar and Liv have had their own moments.
No, Daystar's had a couple of moments,
They've had
hasn't he, in
moments,
side
haven't they?
lanes?
Yeah.
By the way,
it's
look,
Limas.
all these players probably had some moments, but let's think about what moments they had today. Who is the Dare MVP? Who did you guys in Twitch chat vote on? Let's have a look. Who was it? It was Why Not again, huh? Doing a lot of work in the early game, but of course, getting real up in their grills. And as you mentioned during the cast, Rusty, he was mechanics maxing, just going insane today.
Yeah, I've noticed in every region in the world, every single region in the world, that level 3 invade at red buff by Sejuani's been getting kills. And it's starting to become like a level 2 cheese for laners. Like, you know it exists, so you just have to start dealing with it better. And we're yet to see teams deal with that. And if that's the case, Why Not's going to continue to find these leads and oppress you.
You have a Varus and Karma on the side of Mammoth tonight, and you weren't able to get that bot lane priority, which would have helped Akano out way more for that when his red buff was getting invaded. So it's definitely something that is a lot more predictable nowadays and something we expect. So teams have to adapt to this, or your jungle is just going to keep getting his camp stole in front of him. That being said, I don't think Xin Zhao is the most prioritized champion in the current meta right now. He does require a lot of attention, or at least a support babysitting him throughout those 1v1s. But I think the crucial mistake that he made was that he started the blue buff and he was pathing towards bot lane, so he didn't have that red buff for the duel.
Yeah, it was a little bit hard. When, as a jungler, if you lose one of your first 2 buffs, you just tilt. It's just downhill. It's really hard to pull yourself out of that little rut.
How do you know that, Mac?
It might happen once or twice to me.
What's
but look,
wrong, Mac, mate?
If you want to hear these stories and more, !Discord, and you can join the Discord and hear all of everybody's bloody stories all around the Rift, all from the LCO cast. We got bloody pet channels, we got crazy story channels, and we probably have channels to do with what you're doing on the weekend. But look, we'll talk about that when the weekend comes around. But make sure you join that one for the moment. I think we actually, that game was a pretty quick one. So we got some time to check in with you guys from the fans as well. See what you've sent in, what your favorite snack is to eat while you're playing some League of Legendos. Let's see what you guys have in store for us.
Ooh,
we got
banger.
JB, licorice all sorts. Are you my mum? That seems like a mum snack.
I love licorice.
I love licorice too,
Bit of an
but
acquired
only
taste.
the red one.
I'm
I
going to
don't
say,
like
I'm
the
going
red.
to ask something really weird. What is that caption? What is the aniseed? Is that a flavor?
That's
licorice
roughly
flavour.
the flavor of licorice, or is the flavor.
What's that
of
even
licorice.
mean?
Aniseed is like
Why is licorice flavor not licorice? Why is it not called licorice?
because aniseed existed first. It was the king, Rusty.
So the person who captioned that is like 55
Yeah.
IRL.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still,
Just wanted to
still
confirm
good with
that.
his fist if you want to have a fight about it. Like I think he's just in there. He's pretty good boulder as well. All right.
Uh-oh.
Hey,
Licorice is good.
Uh-oh.
I'm a fan.
I didn't know that.
I rate it.
we got a few more to have
Licorice
a quick
goes
look
hard.
at.
Aniseed?
King Limas loves eating. Why not be friends? Interesting. I wouldn't eat my jungler, which would be eating myself, and that's kind of weird.
Jeez,
Ayo, true.
2 things here. Wish we had this up before the interview because that would have been funny. And 2, he's got a Hail of Blades with a no sign as his icon.
Yeah.
Big fan of that.
Limas is starting
Hey.
a movement
Yeah,
against
yeah.
Halo Blaze. He's
Banger.
had enough of Ashes and Varus is in that bottom lane, and especially that Kaelin's support.
Just delete it.
Yeah, send it a message. Now we got one more message from you guys to have a quick look at. Who is it? What do we got? It is Minky Whale LOL. Loves eating up Carbon's elo. I'm sure Carbon loves that as well.
I mean, first of all, shout out to Minky Whale LOL for the greatest Gragas clip of all time.
I love that
I
one.
feel like he was tanking Carbon's elo with it. He was eating both of their elos all at the same time. But do miss Minky playing. No more huge dragons running around the competitive landscape.
Yeah, it's a... Wait, should I know Minky?
He was a pro from like 2011 to 2015,
Okay.
14.
Because he knew the gym I was at the other day, and I was like, hey, you're a local. You're bloody good looking.
If you ever want to
That's
go
what I'm
running,
Yep.
he runs every day.
Oof.
So
He's a big dog.
Cardio, goals. And I'm running straight into a break because we got the match of the week coming up just after it. That, of course, is going to be Direwolves up against Pentanet.GG right after this.
And looking to siege once again. Dajong wants none of that. That's a disengage all the way there from Daystar. Benvi is the casualty, the price they have to pay for it. They get knocked up. Let's bounce. Let's fight. And let's find success if you're Bliss right now. It's some of the Heralds. They're going to try and farm a few more kills, get a few more turrets, and get a big ace.
Chi-Chi jumps straight into a trap, gets locked.